calendar year 2000 to 2004 are 5,000, 5,300, 5,500, 5,700, 6,000. So how the equation development and all happens? Years 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. What is the middle year? 2002. That you put a 0. On to the top what will happen? Minus 1, minus 2. To the down you got plus 1, plus 2. And you make x square. Minus 2 whole square is equal to 4. Minus 1 whole square is equal to 1. 0, 1, 4. Sigma of x square is what? 10. Y is nothing but the profits. Profits for the different years. And you multiply x with y. 5,000 into minus 2 is minus 10,000. 5,300 into minus 1 is equal to 5,300. 5,500 into 0 is 0. 5,700 into 1 is 5,700. 6,000 into 2 is equal to 12,000. So sigma of xy is what? 2,400. Sigma of x square is what? 10. So A is equal to sigma of y divided by n. What is sigma of y? What is the sum total of the profits? What is the sum total of the profit? 27,500. What is the sigma of this particular x? N is number of years divided by 5. 27,500 divided by 5 is equal to 5,500. What is B? B is sigma xy by x square. That is sigma xy is nothing but the 2,400 and sigma x square is equal to 10. So 240. So how you are developing the equation? Y is equal to a plus bx. So y is equal to 5,500 plus 240x. Now how to extrapolate the profits? Let us suppose you want to find out the profits for 2006. So 2006 minus base year is what? 2002, where you have taken it as a 0. So 2006 minus 2002 is what? 4. So y is equal to 5,500 plus 240 into 4 will give you 5,500 plus 960, 6,460. I think you can do with the 2007 and 2008. So that's what we are trying to establish, a trend equation. Once the trend equation gets established, you can extrapolate the profits and find out the future profits. But generally in the problems what we are doing, what all you have written, that is the only thing. Past profits, making the average, and then suitable adjustments for the things which are going to be there in the future and eliminating the extraordinary extraneous items and their effects on the past profits is what we are generally doing in our problem section also. So now step 4. Step 4. Computation of future maintainable profits. Computation of future maintainable profits. A. First, future maintainable profits represents profit in step 3. Profit in step 3 adjusted for all known changes. Adjusted for all known changes. Of course, few examples we are giving. What could be the known changes? A. Change in the selling price. Change in the selling price or input costs. Or input costs. Then B. Change in the wage rate. Change in the wage rates. C is change in the tax rates. Change in the tax rates. Then D is additional revenue. D is additional revenue. and additional depreciation, additional depreciation on capital expenses, on capital expenses recently incurred, recently incurred. E, additional depreciation, additional depreciation or excess depreciation, or excess depreciation return back, excess depreciation return back in the event of revaluation, in the event of a revaluation. Then change in the accounting policy. F is change in the accounting policy to ensure conformity with, to ensure conformity with policies adopted, policies adopted while arriving at NRR, while arriving at a NRR, normal rate of return. Note, the profit should be, the profit should be profits before preference dividend, should be profits before preference dividend. Next friends, another important thing, after you learn future maintainable profits, you need to know what is capital employed, and while calculating those that particular capital employed, what adjustments are warranted also is something which clarity should be there in your mind. Take it. Main heading, capital employed. Capital employed. Capital employed represents, capital employed represents fair value of the net assets used, fair value of the net assets used in the business, in the business for earning the profits, for earning the profits. So in that context, point number 1, fixed assets, fixed assets. Point number A, consider only those assets, consider only those assets which are in use, consider only those assets which are in use. What do you mean? That is, brackets, exclude unproductive assets, exclude unproductive assets. Example, surplus land, example, surplus land. Then consider the assets at the fair value, consider the asset at the fair value. How you are looking at the fair value, friends? That is lower of replacement value, lower of replacement value and economic value, lower of replacement value or economic value. What is replacement value, friends? Today, if this asset I want to purchase a new asset in the place of the existing asset, what is the replacement value? What is economic value? This asset in future, what is the earnings that it make? That you call it as an economic value. So what is the fair value? Fair value is the least of replacement value or the what you call economic value. Then See, do not consider goodwill. In fixed assets, you may be having already in the balance sheet goodwill, but that goodwill don't consider. Since the objective of this exercise is, to value the goodwill, Then next, patents or trademarks, or licenses should be considered at fair value only, to the extent they are used for earning future maintainable profits. Then next point, E point. If the assets are to be considered at book value, such book value should be arrived after proper application of accounting principles laid out in accounting standards. That means all the book values are the one which are arrived by duly adhering and adopting the accounting policies stipulated in the accounting standards. Then number 2, investments. A, trade investment, value at the fair value. Trade investments, value at the fair value. Then non-trade investments, ignore. Why you are saying ignore? Because you are not going to consider the income from non-trade investments while calculating the future maintainable profits. So also you are not going to consider the non-trade investment itself while calculating the capital employed. Then third, current assets. Stock, realizable value, here note, difference in valuation of stock should be adjusted against profit of the year preceding the date of valuation. Of course, on this aspect also there is a problem. That is, there is an undervaluation of the stock, means now you increase the value of the stock, and such increased value you take it in the what you call capital employed, and to that extent what is the effect on the profit of the last year, you increase the profits. Like that you have to carry it out. Debtors at their realizable value. Loans and advances at their recoverable values. loans and advances are to be considered at their recoverable values. Then fourth, liabilities should be considered at redemption amount. Should be considered at the redemption amount, because sometimes liability may be redeemed at a discount or at a premium. What is its redemption value? Is it par or a discount or premium? You have to give a due consideration. In this context, friends, try to understand. So far we covered four things: fixed assets, investments, current assets, current liabilities. Now, what are the standards which are related to this? Just remember, there is no need to write. Fixed assets, relating to that, how many standards are there? Accounting standard 6 deals with the depreciation, 10 deals with the fixed assets, 11 deals with the foreign currency translation, 12 deals with the government grant, 16 deals with the borrowing cost, 19 deals with the lease, accounting for lease, 26 deals with the intangible assets, 28 deals with the impairment to the assets. Then friends, investments, you have 13, 21, 23, 27. Investment in joint ventures, investment in subsidiaries, consolidated financial statements, all that. Inventories are being dealt by the what you call 2. Debtors are dealt by the 9 and 4. What is 9? Revenue recognition. What is 4? 4 deals with what? Prior period items and events occurring after balance sheet dates. Comes with what? What is accounting standard 4? Contingencies and events occurring after balance sheet date is the fourth one. So here what we are saying, 4. 4 is what? Contingencies and events occurring after balance. You made the sale, recognized the debtors, there is a chance of contingency in realizing that particular income, or an event might happen which has resulted in a thing that whereby you need to adjust your balance sheet items and all that. Right? So AS4 deals with what? Contingencies and events occurring after the balance sheet date. 5 deals with what? Prior period items, extraordinary items, and changes in the accounting policies and estimates. So each of these things, which standards are affecting, as a final student, you need to also learn the things which are prescribed in those standards. Of course, standards is a separate topic by itself, friends, which may also require some 30 to 35 hours of an elaborate discussion on it, because problem section also we need to do, wherein that discussion will be helpful both for your accounts paper and the audit paper. Right. Then the next is capital employed. Note A. Capital employed shall be before deducting share capital and proposed dividend. Before deducting share capital and proposed dividend. Then main heading, treatment of profits or losses. Treatment of profits or losses on restatement of assets and liabilities. Restatement of assets and liabilities. Sometimes what may happen, you may go for revaluation of fixed assets, current liabilities and all. Then what will be the profit that arises on account of that? How do you deal with that in the context of valuation of goodwill? Right. Number 1, fixed assets. Number one, fixed assets. Profit or loss. A. Profit or loss on revaluing the fixed asset. On revaluing the fixed asset should not be adjusted. Should not be adjusted against the should not be adjusted against the past profit, against the past profit for computing future maintainable profit, for computing future maintainable profit, since such profits are not operating profits. They are not operating profits. Then revalued figures are, next point, revalued figures are however considered for computing the additional depreciation, or write back, return back to arrive at the future maintainable profits. Friends, all of you are able to feel the point. First, feel the point. Whenever you go for revaluation of the fixed assets, such revaluation profit or loss should not be taken to adjust the future maintainable profits, because that is not an operating profit. It's only a valuation profit or loss. But once the asset gets revalued, whatever the additional depreciation that may come because of the revaluation or a reduction in the depreciation that may arise, that can always be taken and adjusted with the future maintainable profits. Future maintainable profits should be reduced for that additional depreciation or increased by such a reduction because of the reduction in the value of the asset. This point should clearly sit in your minds, because this has got lot of relevance while doing the problems. Then current assets and current liabilities. Assets and current liabilities. Profit on revaluation. Should be adjusted against past profits. Should be adjusted against the past profits. Then, so profit on revaluation of fixed assets should not be adjusted. Profit or loss on account of revaluation of current assets or current liabilities should be adjusted to the past profits before they are being extrapolated or projected. Then, next point. Liabilities relating to non-trade investments. Next point. Liabilities relating to non-trade investments should not be deducted. Friends, try to understand, since non-trade investments itself you are not considering for capital employed, any loan or borrowing that you have made to acquire that non-trade investment also should not be deducted is the point. Point is clear? Non-trade investment you are not taking in the assets. So, a liability incurred to acquire that asset also should not be considered. Then, is it the capital employed at the end, or is it the average capital? What is it? So, next point. Alternative capitals. Alternatives for capital employed. Number one, capital employed on valuation dates. capital employed on valuation date. Number 2, average capital employed. Number 2, average capital employed. Generally, when you go for the average capital employed, friends, when there is a significant change during the year of the opening capital and the closing capital, generally you go for the average capital employed. Other way around, we always believe that you have to take the closing capital employed only. Write that. The preferred choice of capital employed, the preferred choice of capital employed, the preferred choice of capital employed is only terminal capital employed. Is only terminal capital employed. Then friends, normal rate of return. Next is the normal rate of return. Normal rate of return represents return expected from industry. Return expected from industry comprising enterprises of similar nature. Next, components of normal rate of return. This is where the finalist needs a clarification, because when you are doing PE2 or PCC, problem itself will give you the normal rate of return. As you come to the final, you should know what comprises of that normal rate of return, components of a normal rate of return. That is, components of normal rate of return are: number 1, bank rates. What is bank rate, friends? Hyphen. Rate at which treasury bills, bracket, sovereign debts, brackets close, auctioned by the central bank. What is the central bank? RBI, brackets RBI, are discounted by the lenders. Government also requires money. When the government want to raise the what you call money, the investor, the lender, at what rate he is expecting, that and all you are terming it as what? Bank rates. Then risk premium. Second component of the normal rate of return is the risk premium. By now you are all through with one point, because you passed already PE2, financial management and leverage concept you have studied. Risk is how many types of risks? Business risk, financial risk. What is business risk and what is financial risk? Business risk arises with more fixed expenditure being there in the expenditure structure. Because of fixed expenditure, the business risk is going to get increased. Always when you start the story, you should more be on what you call fluctuating commitments, less fixed commitments. But as you grow, more fixed commitments, less fluctuating commitments. Because once you commit, what will happen? That cost, irrespective of the level of activity, need to be spent. The benefit of fixed expenditure comes when? Only when you make best utilization of that fixed expenditure. If you go on increasing the fixed expenditure without commensurate increasing the fixed that activity level, then whatever the profits that you make with all your hard work will get eaten away. This is what actually the concept of the business risk. What is financial risk? By employing more loan funds, interest obligations will be going up. And what is the financial management principle? You raise the money only in situation where you are confident that the return which you are going to get out of investment of this money is more than the rate of interest which you are going to pay. Such kind of situation, the risk point, you call it as a financial risk. I only revised the concept, much more detailed is the concept is there. So risk is of two types, and one is the business risk, another is the financial risk. Then risk premium A, premium for business risk, premium for financial risk. Premium for financial risk. Why you have to add the normal rate of return in the presence of the risk? What is the financial management principle, friends? More the risk, more the return. Okay. Once you increase the risk perception of the investor, his expectations also will go up about the return. Isn't it or not? With increased risk, the expectation also will go up is the normal principle. That is the reason why you are adding to the what you call your normal rate of return a premium for the financial risk and the business risk. Then write down, in most of the cases, note, in most of the cases NRR is calculated, normal rate of return is calculated as earning yield of a representative company, earning yield of representative company whose shares are quoted in a recognized stock exchange, in a recognized stock exchange. What is earning yield, friends? Earning yield is equal to earnings per share divided by market price per share. Earnings per share divided by market price per share whole multiplied by 100. That is inverse of P by E ratio. Inverse of P by E ratio. Inverse of P by E ratio means what? Normal rate of return, earnings price. Then adjusted NRR. Why adjustment is required? Adjusted NRR. Adjusted NRR. The NRR to be adopted. The NRR to be adopted for valuation shall be the NRR as determined above, adjusted for variances in the basic criteria adopted. While arriving at the standard. arriving at the standard. Friends, a small illustration you can very well observe from the PowerPoint. I read the illustration. That is, EPS of a representative company is a 3, whereas company being valued not applicable. MPS, market price per share of a representative company 30, company being valued not applicable, because this is not a listed one. Debt equity ratio 2:1, representative company, whereas company being valued is what? 3:1. So in this situation, how the things you are going to do? Like, first NRR. NRR of what? Of a representative company you take. Because this particular company is not a listed company, so its shares are not listed in the market, so you will not be able to know market price of this company. So then you are taking the help of what company? Representative company. That representative company's EPS is what? 3. Market price is what? 30. So 3/30 into 100 will give you what? 10%. So normal rate of return of representative company is what? 10%. Then variance in a debt equity criteria. Variance in the debt equity criteria. See, for representative company, debt equity ratio is 2:1, whereas for our company, what is it? 3:1. So variance is how much? 3 minus 2 divided by 2. That means 50% variance is there in case of what you call our company. In representative company, if 100 rupees is the debt, means in our company 150 rupees is the what you call debt. So 50% debt component is there. As the debt increases, what will happen? Risk also get increased. So negative debt we have, so that increases our risk. So for increase in the risk, what you need to do? Add premium to the normal rate of return. So assuming the variance of 100% causes a change in the risk of 1%, for 50% variance, what you do? 50% of the 1, that means 0.5% must be added to the risk. That is to the normal rate of return. Thereby normal rate of return becomes what? 10.5%. Of course, here only for 100% change, the risk will be 1%. For 50%, the risk is 0.5%. That in all is our assumption only. But in any case, the point that we want to make you to learn through this illustration is what? We want you to make you to understand through this illustration that normal rate of return is the one rate of return which all the similar units in the industry generally earn. But you have to make adjustment to that normal rate of return depending upon the two factors. One is the business risk and the what you call financial risk. If in case if your financial risk is more compared to the what you call industry, then you have to increase your normal rate of return, because your investor's expectation will be what you call more is the point. So with that, we made an elaborate discussion, theory discussion on a valuation of a goodwill. Which valuation of the goodwill we will do the problems. But the next session we will also complete, friends, the valuation of the shares, theoretical part of it, so that all the problems of valuation of assets, valuation of the business, valuation of the goodwill, valuation of the shares can be done at one stroke.